He once sold snacks to pilgrims on a mountain just to earn a few extra coins. Decades later, his company would become the first private Indian business to ever appear on the Fortune 500 list. This is not a story that started with an advantage. It started with almost nothing at all. His name was Dhirajlal Hirachand Ambani. The world would come to know him as Dhirubhai. He was born on December 28, 1932 in a small village called Chorwad in Gujarat. His father was a school teacher. Not a businessman, not a trader, a school teacher raising 5 children on a modest income. As a boy, Dhirubhai sold bhajias to pilgrims climbing Mount Girnar on weekends. Small coins, one snack at a time. It wasn't glamorous, but it was an early sign of something. He wasn't waiting for opportunity. He was making it wherever he stood. At 16, after finishing his matriculation, Dhirubhai left India entirely. He traveled to Aden in what is now Yemen, chasing a living far from home. His first job there wasn't in an office. It was at a petrol pump, filling tanks for a living. Later, he worked his way up to a clerk's position in a trading company. Think about that for a moment. The man who would eventually be called the greatest wealth creator of the century started his working life pumping gas in a foreign country thousands of kilometers from home. But Aden taught him something India hadn't. He learned to read markets, currencies, shipping and risk. Every year in that clerk's job was, without him fully realizing it, an apprenticeship for something much bigger. In 1958, Dhirubhai returned to India carrying with him 50,000 rupees and an idea. He founded a small trading firm and called it Reliance Commercial Corporation. He started simple, exporting spices, importing polyester yarn. Nothing that would have made headlines at the time. But Dhirubhai wasn't thinking about headlines. He was thinking about scale, years before anyone around him was ready for that word. In 1966, he took the next major step, founding a textile mill near Ahmedabad. This wasn't just another factory. This was the seed of what would eventually become one of the largest industrial operations in Asia. The brand he built there, Vimal, would soon become a household name across India. Then came the moment that changed not just Dhirubhai's story, but the story of Indian capital markets themselves. In 1977, Reliance went public. This wasn't simply a company selling shares. Dhirubhai did something almost nobody in Indian business had bothered to do before him. He personally, aggressively encouraged ordinary Indians, clerks, shopkeepers, small farmers, people who had never once considered the stock market to become shareholders in his company. At the time, investing in equity was seen as something for the wealthy, the connected, the financially educated. Dhirubhai broke that perception apart. He built something that historians would later call India's first equity cult. Millions of ordinary people, for the first time in their lives, owned a piece of a growing Indian company. Reliance's annual general meetings became legendary. Not boring boardroom formalities, but massive gatherings, sometimes drawing tens of thousands of shareholders, treated less like a corporate meeting and more like a movement. Through the 1980s and 1990s, Reliance expanded aggressively. Petrochemicals, polyester, refining, power, each new sector added another layer to an empire that had started with 50,000 rupees and a small trading office. In 1992, Reliance became the first Indian company to raise global financial markets, and soon after, it achieved something no privately owned Indian company had ever achieved before. It entered the Fortune 500. The boy who once sold snacks on a mountainside for spare coins had built a company that stood shoulder to shoulder with the largest corporations on earth. On July 6, 2002, Dhirubhai Ambani passed away in Mumbai following a prolonged illness. He left behind a business empire valued in the tens of thousands of crores and something arguably even more significant, a fundamentally changed relationship between ordinary Indians and the stock market itself. In 2016, the government of India honored him posthumously with the Padma Vibhushan, one of the country's highest civilian awards. A poll conducted by the Times of India had already named him the greatest wealth creator of the century. But strip away the titles and the numbers, and what's left is a simpler story. A school teacher's son, a petrol pump attendant in a foreign country, a man with 50,000 rupees and an idea nobody else believed in yet. You began this video with a boy selling snacks on a mountain for spare coins. By the end of his life, he had convinced an entire nation that they too could own a piece of its future.
That in the end may be the most valuable thing Dhirubhai Ambani ever built. Not a company, a belief.